Hello, everyone. This is Mike Lively, and today we're going to go through a presentation I did a number of weeks ago to my QA Forum technology group. And it has to do with AZ305, ChatGPT, and Terraform. So presently I'm prepping for the 305 architect exam for Azure, and I've been using Terraform and ChatGPT to write practice code. Just a little bit about myself. I started Chat Users Group, the meetup, about a year and a half ago. We have about 700 members now. And if you want to join, feel free to. It's all free. I started in technology over 40 years ago, and I've seen a lot of economic Darwinism. Just things got one technology gobbled up by another. People losing their jobs, people having new jobs, people losing their jobs, having new jobs. And my present company I've been with for almost 12 years. I was started off as a front end and .NET developer, became the DevOps tech lead, then became the QA architect, and now I'm manager of training and documentation. Previously, I'd worked in government education, and I was a captain in the military, United States Air Force. Check out the meetup. Oh, there's a lot of great new meetups. I just did my 6 months planning and I put a bunch of meetups out there. I think you'll find something interesting. Today's presentation, now I'm going to start right with a demo with Terraform and ChatGPT. But first, let's talk about democratizing technology. This is very exciting for me. When I first started in technology, everything was so expensive. I remember I bought my first C compiler for $200. Now they're just giving them away, right? And with it, 80, 95 bucks, you can go to Amazon, buy a Chromebook, and in a sense, rule the world. Come up with a great idea. It's all about your mind, how powerful you can think, the ideas you can come up with. And you could just get that technology, those ideas out on the web in just minutes across the world. It's pretty amazing. And one of the questions I asked the group, what was their favorite democratizing technology? And I gave them 11 things to choose from: the internet, personal computers, mobile phones, open source software, crowdfunding, online education, social media, 3D printing, solar panels, drones, and OpenAI. Of course, everyone loves OpenAI. Some people love the crowdfunding. Open source software has been amazing. So much software for free. No one expected that. And then we went right into Terraform. Now, Terraform has a nice little life cycle. It starts with init, validate, plan, apply, and destroy. And you're going to use a lot of validate when you work with Terraform and when you work with ChatGPT. And then you're going to use a plan and apply also for debugging a ChatGPT code. Now, what you want to do is build your code up. Don't just write, 200 lines of code and throw it in there and expect it to run. You want to take segments of code and put in segments in the refactor. So this whole Scrum cycle of refactoring is something you're going to use a lot, and that's very important when working with ChatGPT. Now, just a little bit about how, if you're going to get up and running with Azure and Terraform, what you're going to want to do is come with your subscription ID, tenant ID, and client secret, and put that in your Terraform provider. Never put your credentials in a repository. Use a .get ignore file or a security vault of some type. GitHub is being swarmed with bots looking for credentials. So if you put your credentials up there, they're going to find them and they're going to use them. With that said, if you want to get your subscription ID, what you want to do is go to subscriptions and get a subscription ID. Next thing you want to do for getting the tenant ID, you want to go to Active Directory, Active Registrations, new registration, give it a name, and then go to the given name. And then you can pull your tenant ID also from there. You can pull your application ID. And finally, you want to pull your secret. And you want to go to Certificates and Secrets, New Client Secret, and give it a name. And you want to make sure you copy it now, right? Because if you come back to this page, you won't be able to see it. But don't worry, if you forgot to copy it, you can always create a new one. With that said, what I typically like to do, I like to put the subscription ID, the client secret, and the tenant ID in a Terraform.tf forest file. And that's the file I want to hide. And then from there, I'll reference it using the variables.tf file. And then from there, then I'll put all those in my providers file. So I can put my providers file and my variables file up on my repository, but don't put the Terraform.tf file up there. Okay, with that said, one of the first examples I did is trying to write something I wanted GPT to do, like a user story. So I wanted to create a resource group. So it says, as a developer, use a Terraform to create an Azure resource group and use Terraform.tf vars to store the resource group name as AZ305RG and region East US, such that main.tf references its variables from variable.tf, and variable.tf references its variables from terraform.tf vars, and the providers.tf holds authorization parameters such as IDs and secrets. Provide all 4 files. I told it what to give me. Give me terraform.tf vars, give me variable vars, give me providers.tf, give me main.tf, and explain the code and give summary documentation, references, and links. So I just put that right into ChatGPT like I was a user story. I was a Scrum Master for about 3.5 years. And so I thought, hey, let's try some Scrum language. So let's go to ChatGPT and see if that works. Just my ChatGPT, let's copy and paste that in. Let's run it. And right away, it's going to do it for me. It'll explain the code as well. All right, here's my TFRs file. And there's my resource group name. Gives me a region. Here's my variables.tf. So essentially, I described is exactly what I wanted. It's creating that for me. There's my providers.tf file. And it's putting my IDs in there. So, all right, that works. And it's giving me some documentation. And now it's going to be my main.tf file. And there's my .var references right there in the main.tf. Great. And it gives me a reference where I can go look at it. Hey, I hope this looks good. Hey, and thanks. I give a little positive reinforcement there. Hey, if you have more questions, come back. So that's what ChatGPT says. So with that, the code that I got from that, it kind of looked like this. You can see my TFRs file, my variables file, my main file, and my providers file. And this really takes a lot of the heavy lifting off. And you see, here's my comment and my links. We'll get a little bit more advanced as we move along here. I'm not going to run this, but I do have an example that I will run. It has 108 lines of code, and I'll show you how to build that code up. And that will be creating a VM. So let's move on from here. So I tried something a little bit more advanced. Let's do a storage account. As a developer, use Terraform to create an Azure storage account and resource group, having a terraform.tfr vars file with the following parameters: storage account name, AZ305SG, account tier, standard account replication, LRS, account kind, storage v2, tags environment, sandbox, location East US, resource group AZ305RG, such that main.tf references var variables.tf, which references terraform.tf and provides a .tf file that holds the authorization parameters, provide all the 4 files as we did before. Very much not similar to a user story that you might have that gives you exactly what you want. But in this case, you're not writing this and having a developer go off and work like 3 hours or 4 hours on it. You're just having ChatGPT generate the code for you automatically. This is pretty amazing. And so let me go ahead and put this in ChatGPT and watch this work. And what I found is that ChatGPT works really well with Terraform. And one of the things about that is that Terraform really doesn't have a whole lot of options. So it's actually going to write very accurate code. And there you go. It's going to start building going to tell me what it's going to do, and it's going to start building that code for me. Here's my .tfvars file. And it's going to run my variables file. There you go. And it's writing my providers file. And it's just giving me some documentation. And then the main.tf. It explains the code for me as I asked it to do so. There you go. There's a name, there's a location. Here's a storage account. All right. And it kind of stopped there. So sometimes you say continue where you left off. And then it'll just continue with the code. There you go. And it creates a tag for me, an environmental tag. Excellent. Good job. Hey, any more questions? Well, thanks. That's good. I appreciate that. And so if you look at that code, it actually, I just wanted to add more. So I created a resource group and a service account, but I decided I want to add a container and create a storage blob. So you don't have to, when you do that, you don't have to create a whole new session. You just tell ChatGPT, hey, add that to the previous code. So it remembers what you did. And that's one of the amazing things about ChatGPT, and that makes it great for refactoring. So if something's not right and you want to change a part of a code, you just tell it to do that, and it changes it and gives you the new code. So this makes it very useful. And so I asked it to do those things. So I created a container, I created a blob, and then I had to put a reference in for that blob. And here's all the code I got from that. And I ran it and it worked fine. So we have an example that we'll show here in a moment, but I want to discuss this process just a little bit more. You know, we typically have these Scrum teams. We say there's a pizza box or two pizza boxes, and that's like 5 to 7 to 9 members. You don't want to get much bigger than that. And with ChatGPT, you can make ChatGPT part of your Scrum team, and so you start eliminating some of those developers and some of that QA luggage that you have been carrying along, because ChatGPT will write that for you automatically. So now you go from a team of possibly 9 down to a team of 4. We have a product owner that's interfacing with your business, and that person's also keeping the product backlog. You've got your software engineer and you've got your BA, which the BA is working with configuration and defining the state of your system. And the software engineer is like, hooking things up. And so it's like in the past, what we've been so concentrated on is kind of like making the pipes. Now we're concentrating on putting the pipes together. And that's today, right? Because what's happened is we've learned how to put intelligence in a box, human intelligence in a box. So it's not going out to the web and grabbing code. It's taking your input and it's creating an output. And so we've got these members of the Scrum team. Here's my product owner. Here's my pipe fitter. Here's my state creator. And here's my Scrum Master. And my Scrum Master is concerned with the definition of dumb. But what's great about ChatGPT, if we can hook it up into the CI/CD pipeline, our definition of done will be the DevOps definition. So what's the difference between the Scrum definition of done and the DevOps definition of done? Scrum definition of done is deployable software. DevOps definition done is deployed software. And that's where GPT can take you very rapidly. So that's today, all right? The next six months, that's where we're at. In 2 years, if the technology continues, and it will, we can shrink that team down to 2, where you have your product owner who's interfacing with the business and keeping your product backlog, and you have your software engineer, which is putting all the pipes together, and ChatGPT is doing the rest of the heavy lifting. And let me explain what I mean. Here's an example of creating a virtual machine, and you'd think that's really easy in Azure, but really there's a lot of pieces to it. And here's all the steps you have to do that. And there's 8 or 9 steps here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps. And with that said, you might think I need to put all 9 steps into ChatGPT, but I don't. What I need to do is just understand how everything interconnects. And if I put that in there, then ChatGPT will basically take care of all the details for me. So let's show you how that works. And we'll actually run this example. So when you build ChatGPT, you don't want to just write all this code, say create a virtual machine, take all that code and throw 108 lines into your code. You want to build it up piece by piece based upon the interconnections of your system. So what you do is you say, for this particular example, using Terraform, create an Azure virtual network with a subnet. For the code above, and once you create that, then you want to put that into Azure and run it to make sure it works and debug it. For the code above, add a network interface with a code IP and only show new code. So what that will do is show the next block. It won't show the previous block. If you don't put add only show new code, then it'll try to rewrite the whole thing. And when it does that, its buffer will get too long and it will stop writing for you. Then you're going to go from there for the code above, add a security group that is attached to the network interface and only show new code. And that'll show you the next code block. Put that in like the previous 3. This is the 3rd one. And test each one. Okay, and then finally for the code above, add a virtual machine and only show new code. Now when I did this, I only got 4 errors. The first error was in the subnet. And what you needed to do was add prefixes as opposed to prefix because it wasn't in the above block. We'll show that in a moment. And add some brackets. In the Azure Network Security rule, it added the word group, and I just removed that from the name. In the Azure Network Security rule, I had to add the priority equal to 100. And then the storage OS disk, I just had the comment manage equal true. Now, what was amazing is Terraform took care of all this for me. It wasn't like I really had to search. As I went through each block and put those in there and refactored, Terraform immediately identified the error, and they were very easy to fix. So at this point, out of 108 lines, I only had 4 lines where it was bad. That's a 96%, 96% correct code. You can't beat that. So this is what the code actually looked like at the end, and we'll run this in a moment to show you it works. But let's go ahead and run these commands and show you how Terraform will treat them. So first thing we're going to do is create our virtual network with a subnet. Okay, so you can go ahead and refresh ChatGPT. And when you do that, let's go ahead and grab the statement that we want to make and put in there. Now, notice that what we're trying to do is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and we're going to put one in and fix it, another one in and fix it, another one and fix it, until finally we get all the code in there. So we're building our code up piece by piece. We're refactoring, okay? With that said, we'll just take the first part right here and grab it, copy it, and paste it into ChatGPT. All right, and using Terraform, create an Azure virtual network and a subnet. Notice I said and, I should have said and, but ChatGPT doesn't care. It'll correct my grammar and correct my spelling. Let's go. And now it's going to create a virtual network and subnet using Terraform. And what you want to do is take this code into Azure and put it in and run it and debug it. You can see right now that our first error here is it says prefix equals the following address, but however, that needs to be prefixes in brackets. So that was my first error. Okay, so it created that code for me. Take that into Azure, run it and fix it, and then go to the next step. And for the next step, we'll say for the code above, add a network interface with a public IP and only show new code. So go and grab that. And let's paste that in. And it's going to refer to the code above, and it's going to create a network interface. And now it's creating my NIC and my IP configuration. And it's going to explain what it did. And then you go get the next piece of code, get the next comment, copy that. And so you're going to take the code you just ran, and GPT has a nice copy function. So if you go to the top of it real quick, I'll show that to you. And click copy. And add this to your main file, run your main file, do your validate, do your plan and apply, and you'll be able to come up with the next issue and fix that issue. Okay. And let's put the next piece of code in there. And so it's going to refer to the code above. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and grab that line of code or next expression. And for the code above, let's add a security group. Okay. Put that in. And let's go. And now GPT is going to add a security group. And actually set the priority so I didn't have to fix that. So that's actually only 3 lines of code now that are wrong. And so what you want to do is now copy this code, and then you want to take it and paste it into your main file, and then run, validate, apply, or plan and apply, and fix it. And then the next thing, the last piece of last statement, you want to go ahead and for the code above, add a virtual machine, and only show the new code. This is just going to generate the next block, and this works really well with Terraform code. And there you go. It's actually generating that code, create the virtual machine. It's going to create the storage OS. And if you're familiar with this, you have the option of the password or the SSH with the password, which is good. And there you have it. And you want to copy and paste this onto your main file. You want to run it. And when I did that, I came up with the following code for my main file, and it's 108 lines of code. And once I put it in segment by segment, I debugged each piece, and I got it where it all ran together. And I did all this in about 20 minutes. So if you think your average developer might create 100 lines of code a day, right? That he's running and plus meetings and everything else he has to do. This is done in about 20 minutes, and it's running and working. And that's one of the great marvels of ChatGPT. All right, with that said, I'm going to run this for you. So this code show works. And so what we're going to do is go to Azure. And I just love Azure has a shell now. When a few years ago, when we first tried to do cloud at work, they had the SSH, and a lot of that was SSH port was blocked, so we couldn't do, code from work. And so now with the shell, you can do it anywhere. And so I'm going to open my Azure shell, and then let's go to LS and see I have a Terraform file here. So let's go ahead and CD to Terraform. All right, and then I list there, and I have a number of demos I've been doing. Let's do the O4. That's my virtual machine. Just use your tab for completion. And go ahead and list there. You can see I have the following files. I have a main.tf file, my provider's file, my Terraform state file, and Terraform backup, Terraform.tf vars, and Terraform variables. We can take some, let's go ahead and cat the provider's file so you can see that. There's my provider's file right there. Let me open that up. As you see, here's my Terraform provider. Here's my subscriber ID, client ID, secret, and tenant ID. And I have a little bit of code below that that allows Terraform to actually do the destroy. Now, one of the great things about Terraform, it has a destroy command. So if you're practicing for exams like I do a lot, once you write that code, you want to destroy the assets after you're done with it, so you don't get charged, right? I recently took the AZ400 exam, excuse me, the AZ700 exam, and passed that. But I created some assets and left them in Azure, and I woke up the next day after passing the exam. I was charged $20 because I didn't delete those assets. I was so happy I passed it. I forgot to delete my assets, and so that's something that really is great about Terraform. You just hit destroy, Terraform destroy, and it takes the assets away. All right. With that said, let's go and take a look at the cat the main file. And here's all the code that Terraform created for us. Excuse me. Scroll that for you. There you go. All right. And let's see if it runs. So the first thing I want to do is go Terraform init. And that'll bring in all my providers. It's initiating and brought in all my providers. And now what I do is Terraform validate. And this is going to be your best friend when it comes to working with ChatGPT code. This will get most of your errors. And this code is valid. And now we're going to do Terraform plan. And what Terraform plan is going to do is going to show you what the code's going to do. And so Terraform's a state engine, and it kind of figures out everything for you. So just like Terraform kind of figures out everything for you, and it's going to take you to the next state, or the state that you want to be in, and it shows you all the pluses of things it's going to create for you and do. All right. And finally, so I'm going to scroll up and take a look at that. You can see a lot of stuff it's going to do for you. Wow. Finally, we're going to go Terraform apply, and we're going to use the auto approve. And what auto approve is going to allow us to do for us is not stop us in the middle and have to say yes. It'll just do yes for us automatically. Oh, spelled it wrong. There you go. I'll use an equal sign. Sorry. It's a nice thing about Terraform. It just whenever I make an error, it just catches it right away and just fixes it. It's so easy to fix. Right now it's thinking a little bit. All right, it's going to show me what it's going to do, but since I put the auto approve in there, it's going to go ahead and do it for me. If not, at this point, it would stop and say, do you want to do this? I'd type in yes. And it's creating the assets for me right now. And so if you look at my resources right now, you shouldn't see anything yet. So there's nothing in there, but it's going to create those resources for me. If I go to virtual machine, I don't see any virtual machines. Nothing's there, but the code will create all that. And that code was written by Chatbot GPT. Pretty amazing. And I'm very pleased with how well GPT works with Terraform, let me tell you. Give it a moment to create these assets for us. All right, says everything's created. Let's see if it's there. Okay, there's my virtual machine. Woohoo! I can't beat that. All right. Pretty, satisfying. I mean, if you're like me and you're kind of like have the architect mind and you don't really like to dig into the details so much, you've just got wings because you understand this code, you know how it writes, you know how it works, but you just get bored writing it. And so why not make the pipes, but connect the pipes? That's why I love doing it. It puts me at a higher level when it comes to develop this stuff. I have a million things I can do now. I just got wings, and I'm so excited about this. So let's go and destroy this and get rid of it. So I'll go ahead and Terraform. I do a destroy, and I'm gonna go ahead and do an auto apply. Auto approve, excuse me. There you go. Oops, I spelled it wrong. All right, it's going to go through that and it's going to destroy that code for me. And I don't have to worry about it. All right, with that said, let's finish up the presentation. So one of the things I always encourage people when you're prepping for these exams, just don't study the past exam, but also get a lot of hands-on. And so Wiz Labs has like 50 labs. I got 44 here, but actually it's 50 labs now. They added 6 since I made this slide on building AZ305 examples to practice for the exam. And so what I'm doing is I'm just going through there and converting them to Terraform using ChatGPT. So it's just a lot of fun for me. And it kind of works your brain in two ways. You see how it's done through the interface, but then you see how it's done through Terraform. So your skill sets are just really being increased. So I encourage that you do that. So thanks so much for joining and watching this. I hope you learn and love ChatGPT as much as I do. And in your career, it's going to enhance what you can do and you can do it more rapidly. So this technology is here. It's not going to go away. You can decide to go with it or not. It's your decision. But in the next, the present system, it's GPT-3 had about 187 billion parameters. I guess GPT-4, they're not just concentrating on parameters, but actually optimizing code. And that's supposed to come out relatively soon. And that's going to be in the trillions of parameters. So it should be able to do a lot more. But I'm just tickled pink at what it's doing now. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode. And go ahead, check out Mike Live's Meetup, AWS Meetup, and go ahead and join. It's free, and you can get online and interact with us. The link will be in the YouTube description. All right, bye-bye.